Today we're going to be learning about factoring trinomials. So yesterday we factored a monomial out of a polynomial. So we took out a factor, we wrote down what was left. Now we're going to be factoring trinomials of this form. And in the warm-up that you did, all of your answers came out to be a trinomial, meaning it has three terms, of the form something x squared, which in every case we didn't have anything in front of the x squared. And that's the only kind we're going to do. So we have the x squareds, we have something in front of x, and then we have a constant left at the end. They're all of the same form. So what we're going to be doing today is like multiplying binomials in reverse. So we have a binomial here that when you multiply this, you get this. And what we're going to be doing today is starting with this and coming up with this. So we're going to work backwards. Okay, the first thing that I want you to do, today's lesson is kind of like a puzzle or a game. So it's kind of fun. So it'll be a good Friday lesson, I think. Okay, in the following tic-tacs, they call this tic-tac but no toe. There are four numbers. Find the relationship that the two numbers on the right have with the two numbers on the left. So in every one of these tic-tacs, the two numbers on the right can be combined in some way to give you the numbers on the left. So I want you to think for about a minute about what you think that pattern is. And I'm going to pause this for a minute. So if you're watching this at home, this would be a good time to pause and think a little bit. Okay, so after a little discussion, we decided that you multiply the numbers on the right to get the number at the top left. So you multiply them, and you add the numbers on the right to get the number on the bottom left. And does that work for every instance? Let's take a look at maybe this set right here. Let's see if that works. -4 times -6 is -24. That one's actually not right, is it? That should be +24. I just picked that one randomly. That one doesn't work. Do you see any others that don't work? What's that?
They all work.
They all work other than that one. That's kind of funny because I hadn't noticed that one before. I've taught this before, but not gone through and tried to look for mistakes. Okay, so mostly it followed the pattern every time with the exception of this one because we should have had a +24. So we made that change. We made this +24. We would be okay. Okay, what I would like you to do now is use that discovery, and you're going to complete, I gave you a sheet that has tic-tacs on it. So just a little reminder of what you're doing. You're finding two numbers that multiply to give you the top number and add to give you the bottom number. Okay, so I'll give you maybe 3 or 4 minutes to work on this and see how many you come up with. You probably won't get the whole thing done, but just see how many you can come up with. If you get stuck on one, go to another one. Okay, let's go over some of these together. We actually already looked at number 1 off recording, so we talked about using factors, making a list of the factors of the number to see what numbers would multiply to give you that number, and then looking at those factors to see which of those factors would add to give you the other number. Okay, so for 16 and -10, Paul, did you come up with an answer? Good, -8 and -2. It does not matter which one you put on top. The order of the numbers doesn't matter at all. So if the number up here is positive, we know that both numbers that we're going to multiply either both have to be positive or both have to be negative. In this case, we have a -10, so they both have to be negative so that when we add them together, we get the -10. Will, did you get an answer for this one?
3 and 6.
Good, 3 and 6. So 3 times 6 is 18, and 3 plus 6 is 9. 8 is the next one. Good, 6 and 1. 6 times 1 is 6, and 6 plus 1 is 7. Damien, did you get the next one by any chance?
No.
This one's a little harder, so I was hoping we'd get to one nobody got so we could go through this together. Okay, so what would be factors of 35. When I'm finding factors, I always start with 1 and I work my way up. So you could have 1 times 35. Does 2 go into 35? Does 3 go into 35? Does 4 go into 35? Does 5 go into 35? How many times? 7. So we have 5 and 7. And then the next number to check would be 6, and 6 doesn't because 3 and 2 didn't. So we're here. Usually when we get to, if we go in order looking for factors, when we get to 2 numbers that are really close together, that's usually the end of our list of factors. So which of these pairs of numbers could be combined in some way to give us 2? It doesn't have to be adding. You can think about subtracting. Because we have this negative sign up here, that means one of these numbers has to be negative. So if I made one, what's that?
Negative 7
Negative 7
and 5.
and 5. Well, if we did negative 7 and 5, we would get negative 2. We want to get a positive 2. Good. Negative 5 and 7. So you can think about subtraction. If the top left number is negative, we're actually going to have to subtract the 2 numbers. We're going to have one that's positive, one that's negative. So you just have to decide which one is which. Brittany, how about this one? Negative 4 and negative 1. Good. Those multiply to give us 4, and they add to give us negative 5. Karsten, next one. 9 and 5. Good. 9 times 5 is 45. 9 plus 5 is 14. Just taking a test. Austin, do you have the next one? Don't have an answer there yet. That's okay. We're getting toward the middle where you haven't all done them all. What are some factors of 6? The first obvious one would be 1 times. 1 times 6. What about 2? Does 2 go into 6?
3.
Good. So 2 times 3 or 3 times 2. And that's it. We've now reached 2 numbers that are next to each other, so we don't have to look for any more. So which pair of these numbers could combine to give us 5? We need a negative 5, so they're both going to be negative. So which set could we add?
3 times 3.
The 2 times 3, and we're going to make them both negative. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6, and negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. Paul, next one.
Negative 3 and 1.
Good. Courtney, try the next one. Do you have an answer, or do we need to go through factors? Okay, that's fine. We'll go through some factors. So we could have, the first obvious would be 1 and 15. Does 2 go into 15? Does 3 go into 15? 3 times 5. And those numbers are really close together. There's no 4 times 4, so we can actually stop there with our list of factors. Now this number up here is negative, so that means that one of our numbers over here has to be negative. Which pair, when we subtract, would give us 2? The 5 and the 3. And which one are we going to make negative, the 5 or the 3? The 3, good. So we have 5 and negative 3. Okay, now we get into some challenging ones. So I'm going to take volunteers for some of this row. This one, anybody get this one? Will? Good. Negative 2 and negative 36. You were next on the cards anyhow, Will. I would have picked you. Okay, next one. Volunteer? Will again? Negative 6 and 1. Good. How about this one? Aiden? Negative 9 and 8. Good. How about this one? Paul?
9 and negative 4.
9 and negative 4. Good. Last one. Brittany? Good. Negative 2 and 11. So in every case, well, our question here asks, did your discovery work in every case? We just went through and did them all. So it worked for all of these. And number 4 is kind of like, what do they mean by that question? Can you give any explanation for this? Let me ask you to phrase that question a slightly different way. Are there any times when this would not work? Could we just stick any 2 numbers on the left and be able to figure out numbers on the right? Why?
Let's say in the top right, you put one on the bottom.
Yeah, if you put a 1 on the bottom, there would be no way to combine them. So they all have to have this special property that some of their factors have to be able to be added or subtracted to give you the bottom left number. So it doesn't work in every case. Okay, this is the page that I really need to change the color on this because it's not very clear, but I have to retype the whole thing. So for now, just bear with me on this. So what does this have to do with factoring trinomials? So if we're looking at a trinomial in this form, the letters just mean they represent some number. So x is always going to look like an x, but in the place of a, b, and c, we'll have a number. We are going to only do trinomials that have a 1 for a, where a equals 1. So we're not going to have anything ever in front of the x. Well, not ever, but for now, when we're first starting. So we have x squared plus something times x plus something. Okay, so in order to use this little tic-tac thing to help you solve these, you multiply the coefficients a and c. Remember, a is always going to be 1. So we can pretty much take whatever our constant is and write it in the top. This will just end up being c for us. And then you're going to put the coefficient b in the lower left corner. So whatever's in front of the x goes down here. And then we just play the game. We just figure out what numbers go in here, and then we're going to put our answers into this form. So let's try this with, let's do x squared plus 5x minus 36. So our constant is negative 36. So that's what we would put. That's kind of nice that it's c too. C is the constant. So put negative 36 in the top right. We take the coefficient from this and we put it in the bottom left. Now what two numbers would combine to give us those? Courtney? 9 and negative 4. 9 and negative 4. Good. So once we get the answers, then we just put them into this framework. So we have negative 4, so we have x minus 4 and x plus 9. And if we were to check this, we could multiply through. X times x is x squared. X times 9 is 9x. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And negative 4 times 9 is negative 36. And then combining like terms, we get 5. That's why these numbers have to add to give us the middle term, because we're combining like terms. We always have to add them together. And multiplying the constants gives us our constant in our trinomial. So this trinomial does work out to be x squared plus 5x minus 36. Time. Okay. Okay, so you have a page for examples on the back of your sheet. I believe you have these same, double check, yeah, you have the same examples. And I gave you a little table. Whenever you're doing this, if you were doing it on your homework paper, you can just draw a little T kind of chart like that. Okay, so what are we going to put in the top left? What number? 4. What are we going to put in the bottom left? 5. Okay, now what are two numbers that multiply to give us the top, add to give us the bottom? Aiden? 1 and 4. So our answer is x plus 1 times x plus 4. And then we should always check these, especially in the beginning, to make sure we're doing it right. Check by multiplying through. We have x squared plus 4x plus 1x plus 4, which is x squared plus 5x plus 4. Okay, next one. Aiden, what am I going to put in the top left? 6. And Damien, what am I going to put in the bottom left? Good. Okay, volunteer to tell me what two numbers combined, multiply to give us the top, add to give us the bottom. Aiden? Good, negative 6 and 1. So then our answer becomes x plus 1, x minus 6. Checking that, I have x squared minus 6x plus 1x minus 6, which is x squared minus 5x minus 6. And I just realized there's an a in the example, and I use x because I'm so used to using x. So these x's should all actually be a's. Okay, one more example that's not on your sheet, so I want you to write down this one as well, so we have a third example. And then just draw a little homemade tic-tac. Brittany, what do I put in the top left? And Carson, what do I put in the bottom left? 2. Okay, let's see. Aiden, you want to tell us again what? 4 and negative 2. So our answer then, Aiden, would be what?
X plus 4.
Good. And checking, we have x squared minus 2x plus 4x minus 8 is x squared. Ah! We'll just make these all longer. Y squared plus 2y minus 8. I should have just made these all with x. I can't remember if they have all x's on your homework or not. Okay, any questions? I'm going to pass out a worksheet to you, and we're going to do a couple examples from the worksheet so that you have a model on your homework to follow when you get home.
You're still recording.
I know. I'm going to record the first few examples of the worksheet. So if you're watching this at home, this would be the time when you dig for yourself to find the worksheet that you should have gotten, or pause and print it out in the classroom. This worksheet is stapled merely because I messed up and I did two-sided to two-sided instead of one-sided to two-sided. So do not attempt the second page of this. I have some students who really like to work ahead and do the second page, especially my 7th grade class likes to do that, but don't do that because there are some that do not have a 1 in front of the x, and if you work ahead, you're going to be confused most likely. Okay, so we're going to do number 1 together. Whoops, I just dropped somebody's card in the garbage. Austin, you could have been not called on the whole rest of the year if I hadn't let it. Okay, number 1. B squared plus 8b plus 7. So just off to the side, draw yourself a tic-tac. We have 7 and 8. Well, what numbers would multiply to give us 7, add to give us 8? Putting you on the spot. Courtney? 1 and 7. So my answer, Courtney, is, I'm going to write a B right away.
I don't even have my paper ready.
Okay, that's okay. Mm-hmm. Good, and B plus 1.
That's our final answer. We don't have to.
That's your final
We don't
answer.
have to check it.
I want you to check some of them so that you know that you're doing it right, but you don't have to check every single one. How about if we sort of make a deal on that, you check half of them? Do a check for half of them. Okay, let's also do number 3 together. That one has a negative in it. So we have m squared plus m minus 90. Make our tic-tac. What do we put in the top left? Anyone? Negative 90. I'm looking at the wrong one. And what do we put in the bottom? 1. Okay, I won't put anyone on the spot this time. Can anyone come up with 2 numbers that would multiply to give us negative 90, add, or in this case subtract, because it's a negative number? Aiden?
I know, it's negative 9 and 10.
Negative 9 and 10, good. Usually when the bottom number is 1, you know that your numbers have to be 1 apart, so you're looking for factors that are close. So my answer, Aiden, I'm going to do m this time, is
M plus 10.
Mhm.
And money.
Good. Okay, so make sure you have both of these copied on your homework paper so that you have a model, and I would like you to finish this and check half of them.
We have to check the ones that we